party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes, to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Vincent at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Rattlegion Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Rattledge. And tonight, our favorite show is Lucifer. All 5 or so seasons so far. It was brought to you by the good people at Jerry Bruckheimer Television, DC Entertainment, Warner Brothers Television, and Warner Brothers Distribution. Also, Fox, and finally, Netflix. Lucifer is an urban fantasy television series developed by Tom Campanos that premiered on Fox January 25th, 2016. Like almost everything we talk about here on the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network, it was based on a comic book character that was created by Neil Gaiman, Sam Keith, Mike Dringenberg. Lucifer premiered in the Sandman comic, and then he got his own series, which we talked a little bit about last night on Source Material Live. So, back again, my friends, to the show that never ends. She has deigned to return, and she has a lot more to say about Lucifer the series than we did about Lucifer the comic book. Ladies and gentlemen, from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna, how do you do, madam?
Oh, crud. I was supposed to watch Lucifer. I only watched the 6 seasons of Lost.
Get out.
You know, I actually did a Google search. I was like, wait, which shows had 6 seasons? Because I wanted to be accurate.
Well done. All right, and here comes the Can-Am connection here from our Canadian office. It's double trouble. It's Brett the Hitman and Jim the Anvil. Ladies and gentlemen, first, Andrew Graham. How do you do, sir?
I'm well, Mark. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
All right,
I'm sorry, I had to claim Brett.
And tugging on his beard and laughing maniacally, ladies and gentlemen, the Jim the Anvil Neidhart of this pairing. It's David Wright. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing good, thanks. Actually, I went to elementary school with Bret Hart's kid.
Did you really? Is he as big a douchebag as his dad?
No, it was elementary school, so who knows what's happened since then. But he was a decent guy, at least when I knew him.
Oh, good.
Not much.
Yeah,
All
both
right.
Dave and I actually were within a stone's throw of the Bret Hart of the Hart House, actually.
Stu's or Brett's house?
Stu's.
Could you hear the screams?
Not quite. No, I think it was pretty quiet by the time I moved up there, and Dave will have to say beforehand.
Stu finally stopped torturing people in the basement. All right, so Lucifer is loosely based on the comic book, as we said before. It does, in fact, star Tom Ellis as Lucifer Morningstar, who is the fallen angel, and much similar to the comic, he has given up his residency in hell and has come to live among the mortals. And that's about where the similarities end.
Yeah, the TV show actually gives Lucifer a personality.
He is joined by Mazikeen, but Mazikeen does not talk in a demon language. He talks like a normal human being. And we are 5 years into his vacation in Los Angeles, where he's been running a piano bar and nightclub. And the show gets off proper when there's a murder at his club, and he is intent on helping the detective, who is Lauren German as Detective Chloe Decker. He inserts himself into the homicide investigation against her will, and it turns out that they work so well together that he continues to do so, and that's basically the series. It's a supernatural cop procedure show. Every episode there's a murder, and in every season there's an overarching thing that they have to deal with. In season 1, and we'll take these one by one, but just as an overview. Season 1 deals with why everybody in the precinct hates Chloe and what she did, and I think it was like Pasadena or something like that. And the main villain is a police officer who is dirty named Malcolm. In Season 2, the overarching story deals with Lucifer's mother, who has escaped hell. Season 3, we deal with Kane, rather. We deal with Kane, who is masquerading as Lieutenant Pierce.
He's masquerading as a former Superman actor.
That too. So all season, that boy, is that a long season. So all season they're dealing with Kane and Kane's inability to die like a normal person, such as his curse. Season 4, we deal with Eve, where she's not so much a villain as she is a foil. She's sort of there with Lucifer, and gets into all kinds of mischief. And
the antagonist for Season 4 is more the priests who discover the quote-unquote prophecy, because after any supernatural-based seasons like this, somebody's going to eventually just say, fuck it, throw in a prophecy.
And then finally, Season 5, which is where we are now. It's actually 16 episodes. Only the first 8 have been released, so we're at, Season 5.5. The foil, the enemy here is Lucifer's twin brother, Michael, sans the accent. So, let's talk about these season by season. First, let's go around the horn here, and I picked Lucifer to talk about, one, because of its renaissance it got from being on Netflix, but also I like to pick something that goes with the Halloween season that I've never seen before, and I thought Lucifer would be a good one to go with. Alexis, I know you just started watching this. Had you been interested in the series before my deciding to talk about it? What brings you to the dance today?
I had been interested. Like most of your employees, I had a list of TV shows that I wanted to watch, and I was kind of juggling it between, okay, what do I have time to watch, and what do I need to watch from Mark's shows so I can actually be prepared? I think everyone will agree with me that there are two very separate lists there. But Lucifer was on the potential to-do list. I had heard a lot of people on Facebook saying it was really good, it was very enjoyable. I was also intrigued after Crisis on Infinite Earths when they confirmed that, yes, this is the DC Lucifer, and he made an appearance on the big crossover. And I thought, I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, because from what I had read, this Lucifer they have tried insanely hard to stay out of the DC mythos. There's no superheroes, there's no mention of comic books or anything like that. They've really tried to make this series their own thing. When you said you were interested in adding it, I essentially took it as a, boot to the butt and said, okay, fine, now I have an excuse to finally sit down and watch this thing.
What about you, Andrew?
I think this has been something, again, kind of on that. I heard it was pretty good. I heard it was a lot of fun and something that was worth a good bit of distraction. And, COVID, distraction is important. So my wife and I actually started watching this back in probably May, June, and had just been keeping at it for the last few months. So,
and how about you, David?
Well, my wife really likes the sort of buddy cop procedurals. Like we've watched like The Mentalist, Castle, though that was somewhat of an excuse to get her into Firefly, which worked. Elementary. So she likes those types of shows, and I find them all right. So Andrew recommended it to me, so I thought we'd give it a go. And yeah, it's just those kind of shows. The typical, straight woman police detective teamed up with the goofy guy who has some sort of fringe ability that makes him good at solving crimes, be it he's an author that can find the rest of the story, or a mentalist who can use sort of psychological manipulation to find stuff out about people during the case. And in this case, he's the devil, literally. So,
and there's got to be
tension. Run out of ideas, but it seems to be working.
Andrew, you were starting to say something?
I was about to say, and there's got to be tension between the two lead characters.
Yeah. Let's just get out of the way. I hate will they, won't they. in these stories, especially because you know it's going to be will they. Like if I wrote one of these shows, they'd be in bed together by the end of the first episode. It's just done, out of the way, on to solving crimes.
Well, that's no fun. So yeah, we have Tom Ellis, who is Lucifer, Lauren German, who is Detective Chloe Decker, Kevin Alejandro, Detective Douche, Detective Dan Espinoza, who is Chloe's ex-husband, D.B. Woodside, who is Amenadiel, who is an angel, who spends the first season not being an angel, just doing... He spends half of it trying to get Lucifer to go back to hell, and then the other half trying to figure out why the hell he's losing his wings. Leslie Ann Brandt, who is Mazikeen, Rachel Harris, who's Dr. Linda Martin. And let me just stop there and say that, because that's your main cast for season 1, that between Lauren German and Rachel Harris, the facial expressions are the best part of this show. Like the rolling of the eyes and the non-verbal facial reactions are the best parts of any interaction. I mean, you know, one of the gags about the show, and I'll get you guys to weigh in on this, is Lucifer never lies. He will sometimes omit details, but, you know, he's dead serious when he says, I'm the devil. He makes it a point to say that his character is such to where, you know, he is desire and writ large, and that he's not a bad entity. So, you know, when you say the devil, you know, the devil is a trickster, the devil is this, and he goes out of his way to not be any of those things. What he does do is want people to, as Mr. Burns would say, wallow in their own flatulence. You know, just give in to all temptation, do the things you want to do, and that, you know, that's his special power, is to get people to admit the thing deep down that they want. So you have Lauren German, who is Detective Chloe Decker, and she's the straight as nails, deadly serious. A Family Guy kind of made a joke about this, you know, about the woman in every show who can't have fun, and, you know, and is always doing business and is always serious and can't let go of anything, and all of her problems will be solved with the man's penis in 1/2 hour. So that's Family Guy.
There is kind of a fun backstory with Decker, because it turns out that she's being in LA, she's a former actress, and her 15 minutes of fame was essentially being naked in a B-rated, film. And it's clear that she is.
We call them 80s hard bodies movies, madam. 80s hard body movies. Get your terminology right.
Hot Tub High School, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's clear that she has tried so hard to move on from that. And the first time when she meets Lucifer and he points it out to her, she's just got this look on her face like, oh, for God's sake, can somebody just not bring that up again? It's clear that she has moved on past that. She doesn't want that to be what defines her life anymore. And she has clearly struggled to erase that. I mean, I can just imagine when she was first applying for the police academy, all of the teachers and everything making jokes about that. It's like, oh, we got a celebrity, we got an actress in here, and it's clear that has just, you know, followed her everywhere she's gone for so long.
Well, they obviously have good sexual chemistry, Tom Ellis and Lauren German, or the show just wouldn't work. The show is just chock full of sexual chemistry with really all the characters. There's a lot of sex appeal here. But what really sells that relationship is her reactions to Lucifer, because Lucifer... Andrew is just, he has no filter. Everything he thinks, he's the ultimate narcissist. Everything he says, everything he thinks comes right out, and, you know, a lot of times he's using whatever case they're on as some sort of way for him to deal with his own issues, and she's just trying to solve murders. So he'll go and blab something, and she'll just not... every time I think about it, I would laugh. She would just roll her eyes or take a deep breath and sigh. Oh my God, it was the best. But not only her, but in the therapy sessions that he has with Linda Martin, Rachel Harris, her reactions to shit Lucifer says, especially when he's come to the wrong conclusion, as he does in almost every session, and goes tearing out of the room, and she's like, that's not what I meant at all, are some of the funniest parts of the show to me.
Oh, absolutely. That is just absolutely on point. I mean, I think a big strength of the show, no matter who you're dealing with, is the cast unto itself. I mean, all the players do their best in the role. They have a lot to work with. And I think one thing that as the show goes on, and I mean, we can talk about this, but I think the producers really start looking at the different kinds of chemistry they can get with putting different characters together in different ways. Like when you get, like making Amenadiel and Dan good friends, kind of the whenever you get the squad of all the female characters together, that always tends to have a lot of really fun stuff to it. And that's really a strength of it. I will say that you actually brought up one of the things that started to get a little tiresome for me, especially working through season 3, was definitely more towards the, hey, Lucifer's dealing with a psychological issue of some kind, but it's also dovetailing directly into his whatever the case is, or he's projecting onto the case or something along that line. I mean, I think the one I always compared this to was like, this was Bones with the occult.
You're going to have to explain that one a little bit more because I have no idea what Bones is. I mean, I know it's a
television
television
show. You never saw
show.
Bones?
I've never watched Bones, no. I don't watch a lot of network television, as we discussed
Bones
when we discussed
kind of
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. Bones is very much in that same sort of... It was kind of a CSI successor, exact same thing, except they reversed the quirky character was the female doctor. She was the forensic anthropologist, and the straight-laced character was an FBI agent played by David Boreanaz. It went on for like 14 seasons, and kind of in that same vein as Castle and Elementary and things like that.
David, what do you have to say about these nonverbal facial reactions in the show? And I'm making a big deal about this because it's such a huge part of the show.
Oh, it works great. Like, they all come off as pretty natural, and yeah, like I think they added in the feature where Lucifer doesn't lie, just because it creates those sorts of situations. Because the obvious solution to most of Lucifer's problems when dealing with people is don't tell them that you're the devil. He looks perfectly human. He can pass it perfectly for a human. No one would know, but then that's boring. He would just be like a guy who just so happens to be the devil, whereas whenever he walks in, he's like, hello, I'm the devil. And
but
people just kind of look at him like, right.
But at least a third of what he's dealing with is supernatural things.
Going into the psychiatrist's office, like, well, when my father threw me out of heaven for starting an angel rebellion and sent me to hell for my life. And you have Linda just going, right, okay.
Is it the first season?
Had to deal with this one before.
Is it the first season where he finally reveals to her his devil face, or is that the second season?
I think it's like end of second season. I think it's mostly third season. And even then, like her facial reaction, just completely and totally stunned, like no mugging for the camera, just like, brain gone. I can't handle this.
That's not even my favorite one. My favorite one is when he finally goes back to therapy and she agrees to see him, and she's so terrified that she's sitting behind the desk and she's smacking the pen into the desk.
Sorry, you're breaking up. I'm only getting every second word there.
Same. I can barely hear you, man.
For Christ's sakes. The bit where he goes back to therapy with her and she finally accepts him, because for a couple of episodes she wouldn't see him again, and she was like,
it was halfway through season 2. I think it was right after he killed Uriel, and episode 6, it was called Monster, was when he showed his face to Linda. And so her reaction at the end of that made that entire episode. And that entire episode was great unto itself.
What I was getting at was, what I liked even better than that was the a couple of episodes later where she agrees to see him again, and she's behind. Now, normally she sits with nothing between the two of them, but she's sitting behind the desk. And she's tapping the pen.
We're having massive technical difficulties here, Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I can barely.
Have you seen Okay, so has anyone here seen the original Bedazzled movie with Peter Cook, Dudley Moore at all?
No, I got
no.
Elizabeth Hurley version on DVD. It was one of the first DVDs I ever bought.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that one, but that original movie at least sort of had that idea of sort of the devil being more what he does as opposed to who he is. where you just have when it's I forget the character's name, but like the Brendan Fraser character. Whenever he's talking with the devil's just like, look, I'm sorry, but I've got to deceive you. I'm the devil. It's part of the job description. And he's always just, casually doing sort of these minor acts of evil, just, again, because it's his job. Like, he'll be, like getting the new record of the latest hits and putting scratches on them and putting them back in the box as he's distributing them out to people, or drilling a hole in the side of an oil tanker. And it's all just like very, this is my 9 to 5. This is what I do.
Yeah, they do that in the Elizabeth Hurley version. There's a scene where Brendan Fraser's character confronts her in a hospital, and she's mixing the patient's medicine with M&Ms and Tic Tacs.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not so much the devil is evil, it's just the devil's job. And I sort of see some of that in the way that they've done Lucifer, where it's like, I just rule hell. That's my job. I punish the guilty. All that stuff about me being responsible for all the evil in the world, that's all, a creation of humans to blame your problems on me. But I always find it interesting that he says, he never tempts anyone, he never makes anyone do evil, yet we see him multiple times, goading people into doing things that are bad for them.
I think actually one of my favorite parts about Lucifer is that he is a deal maker. He sets himself up as being able to grant wishes and make things happen. But so often in what we've read, it's like the price is always your soul. Lucifer is not really interested in collecting souls, per se. If you're evil, you're going to go to hell. But he finds so many other ways to cash in on these favors, It's like, okay, you want to be a famous star. I'll put you in connection with these people, and then later down the road, I want front row seats for your concert. Okay, you want to be a famous chef. Fine, I'm going to help you here, and then I get to go to your restaurant, whatever you want, and I eat for free. He's like, it's like he's a spider just spinning a web and connecting all of these things to make sure he's always in control. But I love that he's just like, he's basically saying, if you're not evil, I don't want your soul. I just, want what's coming to me. And that's kind of an interesting concept. I really love it.
I don't even know if I'd say if it's about him, what's coming to him or not. I think and this kind of goes to, we want to talk about great facial expressions. Whenever Tom Ellis asks, what do you desire? He's putting a genuine level of curiosity in there, because I think he's really interested in humans and humanity and what makes us tick. And on some level, he'd be perfectly happy, and as we find out kind of the mechanics of hell down the road, that it's very much a guilt-based proposition, which is kind of fascinating for those of you who grew up in the Catholic Church. But to me, it's really interesting that I think he's a devil where, he tempts people and he wants them to tap in their desires, but he also wants them to, be non-destructive about it, enjoy their lives, and not have anyone end up in hell, because if no one was in hell, then he wouldn't have to be there, and he could be up on Earth partying with everybody else, because I think he much prefers humans to the Silver City.
Well, he says that LA is his favorite place to be. He doesn't like heaven because it's boring. He doesn't like hell because it's hell. LA, that's party central, and that's where he wants to be.
Well, it's clear that he's not actually torturing anyone in hell. He's essentially just a glorified prison warden. The demons are doing all the torture, and he oversees the demons, but he's not actually, the one who inflicts the damage. He just sits up on the throne and makes sure that everything goes according to schedule.
Yeah,
because if you actually read through the Bible, which I did once, the devil's almost not in it at all. There's only maybe 2 or 3 places where he shows up, and he doesn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, he's more of a what you'd call kind of a traditional trickster character, like a Loki or a Raven or something like that.
He's not this malevolent. He's not this malevolent force of pure evil set out to destroy people's lives in the world. Yeah, he just kind of pops up here and there. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if this happened? Or, oh, I bet you can't do that.
Well, a lot of what I think Western culture associates with the devil and with Satan and everything like that is straight out of, for lack of a better word, fanfic. It's Dante's Inferno and it's Paradise Lost.
There's a great, it's not a great Nicolas Cage movie. It's a crappy Nicolas Cage movie, but I can't remember which one. It's the one where he escapes from hell, and a demon follows him, and the demon says, you ever actually met the devil? He's kind of quiet. well written, soft spoken. He's just got a job to do. And I always like that interpretation that the devil is not what we see in the works of fundamentalist Christians screaming, the devil tempts you, the devil's on your shoulder. The devil's just back there sitting, look, I've got a job to do. Can you just, leave me out of this crap? I even love the later lines when they're joking about who started the goat head images of Lucifer. It's clear that he hates it. He's like, who did that? Honestly, why a goat?
Yeah, I actually know the answer to that question. It was a way for the sort of Christian missionaries to demonize the Druids, like over in England. Like they would sort of, frolic with the fawns and the goats in the fields, and then the Christians took that iconography, like, oh, it's the devil, the walking goat, and then they do like all sorts of strange, horrible rituals of like fornication with animals and marrying the devil and all that kind of stuff. It was all propaganda. Like a lot of the satanic imagery that we think of, like the pentagrams, were just like repurposed, Druid nature worship type stuff.
Oh, let's face it. If we were going to have a dialogue tonight about the way that Christianity has absorbed pagan traditions like the Borg, then we are never going to get off of this show, and Mark is never going to get to sleep. Yeah.
Enough intellectualization. Let's get back to great, Hollywood TV cop shows.
Well, in the interest of time, and I hope you all can hear me now, let's talk about
this showed up enough.
Let's focus on season 1 and the Malcolm storyline. I'll go to you first, Alexis. There's a lot of season 1.
Mark, you're sounding like a member of Daft Punk, man. I cannot hear a word in edgewise. All right, so what do you guys say we go ahead and talk about season 1, the Malcolm storyline? We get introduced to all of the characters. We get a little bit. We start to learn more about Lucifer's story arc. I think this is also interesting because this is the first. I think it's pretty much the only one where Chloe is so ostracized. After this, her name is no longer Mudd, and we see in the later season she's now a pretty popular detective. And here, no one can stand her. Who wants to start?
Yeah, well, as Mark said before, she's sort of that stereotypical, sort of strong, work-driven, single mom female character in this. So she's not the party person at the precinct. She's just straight down to business, the letter of the law. And we find out that this has led her into investigating a cop that got shot on the job for being dirty, and everyone else in the precinct thinks he's innocent. But she's sticking to her guns, and because of that, they're upset. And I think also like the pension for the officer's family is on the line, and he's in a coma and about to get the cord pulled. So that all makes sense, and it sort of shows more of her character in how she sticks to what she believes is right no matter what. But yeah, it also makes her this pariah within the precinct, where her only real friend is Daniel, her ex-husband, who, to his credit, is actually like a pretty decent and supportive ex-husband.
Yeah, I actually did like that because so often in stories like this, when you have exes who work together, it gets in the way, and there's the constant sexual chemistry between them, and they're always bickering.
There's a bit of that, but yeah, it never gets out of hand.
Yeah, and it's clear that Dan and Chloe still care for each other. They've got an awesome daughter. Trixie is, just like one of the cutest kids on TV. I'm sorry, she's so sweet. And they both love her, and they're both working hard to take care of her, and they've managed to find a way to make it work. And I do like that. I didn't, when I found out that he was going to be her ex-husband, I was like, oh, please, do not just let this be nothing but bickering and griping and everything. No, that they managed to write them very well.
Definitely, I think Dan's kind of an interesting character. I mean, he plays a lot into this storyline, which I'll admit, I've seen enough cop shows to know how most of these kind of dirty cop inside the precinct stories go, and they're not my favorite storyline just because I've seen them a bunch of times. But I mean, speaking about Dan's kind of an interesting character because in a lot of other contexts, he'd be the lead character on one of these cop shows, and now he's kind of both playing second fiddle, both in terms of Chloe and Lucifer.
Yeah, I find that in later seasons he becomes a bit more of a punching bag for the show as he kind of goes off the rails. Even though they still do give him some like genuine, decent stuff to go through to flesh out the character, but he certainly becomes a bit more of a joke into season 2 and especially into season 3.
Yeah, he gets his nickname, Detective Douche.
Yeah, though I am glad that I think after season 2, Lucifer gains a bit of respect for him and doesn't call him that as much. Again, like you can only keep the same gag for so long before it gets old, and you sort of have to mix things up a bit.
Yeah, until you get to season 4, and then it's apparent, and after the death of Charlotte, and all of a sudden the writers just decide to hit the reset button on Dan.
Yeah, again, it's for him that's a pretty big thing to go through, so I can kind of understand him unraveling at that point. But yeah, again, you can only do that for so long before you need the character to put himself back together and move on and take that next step in their journey. I find the reset button is more pushed with Lucifer and Decker more than any other set of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, every time they take one step towards being together, then either, it's usually something very childish and silly in Lucifer's mind that makes him start to sabotage the relationship at that point, though eventually Chloe or Decker gets to have one of those arcs for a change. But yeah, the season 1, I thought it did a decent job of introducing the basics of the world, sort of, how heaven and hell work, who Lucifer is, who Amandiel is, sort of their basic interplay, and there's not really a general like overarching villain of that. It's more just conflicting goals and how there are unintended consequences of those actions, like Amandiel bringing what was his name?
Malcolm,
thank you. The one name that starts with M that I didn't say. Anyway, yeah, bringing Malcolm back from hell because he's in a coma to sort of set in motion a thing to get Lucifer back into going to hell, but that ends up with him going after Chloe and Lucifer putting himself in the line of fire for that, and it's all the best laid plans not going to fruition in the way that they expected, and that ultimately costing Amandiel his status as an angel. Like he starts losing his wings. So like it's it was a decent first season. I thought it set things up really good, and it gave the characters decent arcs to deal with. Like Lucifer kind of dealing with his relation with Chloe and how she has an effect on him. Like when he's near her, he's not immortal anymore. That's a big thing for him to come to grips with, and he seems to be more fascinated with it than anything else. Whereas Amandiel, he fancies himself as like the greatest of angels, and to have him like lose that status, lose his wings, and be condemned to live on Earth. Side note for anyone who hasn't seen the show before: God doesn't talk to angels either, apparently, so they're just as in the dark as to what he's up to as the rest of us are, which is an interesting idea. So yeah, and Chloe just kind of in the middle, trying to make sense of everything.
I have yet to see a show that deals with God and angels and stuff where God is not unknowing and just very much so, I leave you to your own devices.
Yeah, well, I guess it makes good drama.
It does.
Yeah.
All right,
The
so we
little
move
dad,
on.
I wish you'd be more clear.
Move on to season 2, where we get 2 new characters. First, we have Ella Lopez joins the team. She's a forensic scientist, and she is also every incarnation of the manic pixie dream girl. But she's adorable. And we have Charlotte Richards, who is possessed by Mum, the great goddess, literally God's wife. And she's been set loose from hell, and now Lucifer's got a lot to deal with. So, who wants to start talking about that?
I'll go from there. I mean, I think the biggest introduction in season 2 is we kind of expand the universe as it was. We get to see the celestial universe as it was. I guess we get to see Uriel who is one of Lucifer and Amenadiel's brothers. We get instructed to a little bit more of the rules of their universe and the fact that some of these celestial beings can die. And then, of course, we get the big introduction, which is, of course, Mom or the goddess of creation, whoever you want to call her, played by Thenalda Alberta's Tricia Helfer, who was apparently just very, very good at playing characters with multiple personalities, multiple incarnations, rather. But definitely a much stronger season, a very interesting kind of dynamic to throw in there with now having the Charlotte Richards / Mum character in there. Her role, and unto herself, she's an interesting character because she definitely has an agenda, but I wouldn't go as far as saying she's a straight up villain either. And she has her goals, and she wants to get back to the Silver City, and she is kind of manipulating her children to do so. But on the same side, she's not necessarily being completely malevolent about it either.
Yeah, she thinks she's doing the right thing, like the best thing for her and her children, and like her family as a whole. So it's kind of like the ends justify the means. Like,
Yeah.
I find it kind of interesting that that the sort of the view of the celestial family is kind of like the first family in all of creation. So therefore, they're all very dysfunctional by our human standards. You know, like this is the first father, the first mother, and the first children ever born in all of the universe. So they don't really have much of a template for how to behave as a family. So you have a lot of sort of real sort of emotional immaturity amongst them. Like especially like Lucifer is sort of very childish, hungry for attention, lashing out at any perceived slight. And then you have like the great goddess, you know, very maternal, very protective of her children. But again, she has no idea how to behave in society or any of the nuances involved with parenthood or letting your kids grow up or any of that sort of thing.
We do get a great scene when she's forced to resume Charlotte Richards' work as a lawyer. And they walk in and she's in the office. She's like, I don't get why humans complain that law is so hard. You just read the books. It's like, it's apparently she's memorized like 5 years of law school in like 2 days.
Well, she did create a universe, so I guess, you know.
And she only did that in 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I guess the inference was that she didn't really create the Earth. That was, I think it was referred to as more than one time as God's garage project.
Yeah, pretty much. That was apparently what sort of drove them apart, is he started focusing way too much on Earth and not enough on everyone else, and she became embittered and resentful of that and started to mess with the Earth. So natural disasters, famines, wars, all that stuff apparently was more her influence.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But yeah, like Tricia Helfer, great actress, did an amazing job, and yeah, it was kind of interesting that they started up a relationship between her and Dan, which sort of just started off as, hey, you're cute, you'll do, from her, and then when he started to get more into it, because he's on the rebound from having things end completely with Chloe, like they get full on divorced.
Yeah,
So-
they're separated in season 1. They go through the divorce in season 2.
Yeah, and then with Dan, you know, on the rebound and sort of introducing the great goddess into what an actual sort of healthy, you know, romantic relationship is like, where it's not just like, well, you're the only other being in all of creation, so I guess why not? Any other thoughts on that, guys?
Well, the whole thing between Charlotte and Dan really picks up, I'd say, actually in the 3rd season. At the end of the 2nd season, the goddess vacates Charlotte's body and brings her back to life. And we also find out that Charlotte was in hell, so she's just a little screwed up now.
You don't get rid of your Tricia Helfer once you've got a Tricia Helfer.
Very true. And it's very hard for her because she's essentially sitting there going, okay, so apparently I had amnesia for a couple of weeks, and I was still running around doing stuff which I have no memory of. And and apparently while that happened, my soul was in hell. And you get this great character arc out of her that she does not want to go. I mean, obviously, who wants to go back to hell? But she is so scared. She's trying to do good, but it's not in her nature. She's by nature not really a good person.
Well, she's a defense attorney.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so hard for her. She's like, okay, she tries to do good and she tries to be a good person, but it's not in her nature. She finds out, and then when she finds out that Lucifer and Amenadiel are angels, she just starts splurging on life, going, oh, I've got a couple of angels in my back pocket. I don't have to do good. And they confront her going, no, that's not the way it works. And she becomes even more scared that this is what I did naturally. I found out that I had a clean past, and I just sinned my ever-loving heart out. Oh, yeah, my God, I'm going to hell.
Yeah, that part really kind of miffed me, because as someone who was raised in a pretty Christian household, it's like don't you know that's not how this works? Like, if you find out that, hey, no, really, God, heaven, hell, the Bible, all of it is true, your initial response is not going to be hedonism. It's going to be, I need to be very, very good, and I need to say all my prayers and grace before every meal, and I need to donate all my wealth to a puppy shelter, and okay, I know exactly what needs to be done to get into, to make sure that I'm okay after this. Not just like, oh, I'm friends with a couple of angels. Yeah, we're good. I can do whatever.
But yeah, I mean, the goddess character is great, but I think Charlotte Richards is the most interesting in season 3 when she's confronted with this.
Yeah, definitely.
I would definitely agree with that as well.
More heavy lifting as far as nuanced character stuff goes. Not to say that she didn't do a great job with doing celestial being, learning how to slum it as a mortal.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
and, of course, they mine it for some really fun, like, to use the Captain America reference, man at a time humor in terms of how does the world work? Hey, you need to change your clothes, and then they lose. And then, of course, they just strip right in the streets and that sort of thing as well, which is kind of some cheap laughs, but that's always good. Moving on to Mazikeen and Chloe, and then basically just kind of all of Mazikeen's arcs and moving on to that character.
Mazikeen is probably, I'm just actually going to say this. This was brought up earlier. I think my favorite part of this series is that all of these actors have incredible chemistry. I just love how we have so many scenes. You have Dan and Amenadiel. We have Ella, Chloe, and Dr. Linda. We have just the way everyone is able to talk and connect with one another. All of these actors get each other, and I really like that we have scenes where it's clear the characters may not like each other, but they all work so well together, and that's really enjoyable.
Oh, for sure. I think one of my favorite kind of moments, and actually one of my favorite episodes, episode 6, Monster, is when Maze takes Trixie trick-or-treating, and she gets to be that, connect with that character a little bit, and be able to actually just show her demon face on some piece. And one thing we didn't talk about as much when we were dealing with season 1 is that also Mazikeen and Amenadiel had a thing for a few episodes. Not
surprising. He's an angel, she's a demon, but they're both, creatures who don't belong on the earth. They do feel a connection. Mazikeen, she doesn't. I don't think she minds being a human, but I feel that she just is kind of aimless. She had a job down in heaven. She was the head torturer, and she was good at it, and she liked it. Working for Lucifer up on Earth, she's sitting there going, okay, fine, I'm a bartender. What else? Mazikeen is a character who needs to be driven. She needs a purpose. She needs a job.
Yeah, and it has to go beyond just being... Because she's incredibly loyal to Lucifer in a lot of ways, whether he sometimes knows it or not, or sometimes kind of pulls it off or not. But you're 100% right. She needs a purpose beyond just looking out for Lucifer all the time. And I can't remember. Is it this season she becomes a bounty hunter, or is that season 3?
I thought it was like season 2.
Yeah, I think it's midway through season 2, and yeah, she's a pretty kick-ass. I love when they drag in some of her previous bounties, and they're crying just at the name of her, and then Lucifer and Chloe are like, "So you wanted her dead?" And they're like, "No, she's awesome. She helped." It's like, even though she broke their bones and dragged them to hell, they apparently regard her with just such high esteem, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's almost like the dog that bounty hunter thing. You get on the ground, mother. It's like, okay, now let me tell you about Jesus. I'm sorry to talk to you there. It's just a rough job.
All right, I have to pull this in for a second. Did anyone find that there was a distinct lack of Jesus jokes in this show?
Yeah, you think that would be something they could really
He's the
mind.
brother that everyone pays attention to.
You know what? I was grateful for that.
Yeah. It's like the old joke, if we're all God's children, why is Jesus so special?
This show, actually, for all the Christian theology that it does touch on, Jesus is not exactly something that gets brought up repeatedly. It's always God. Not Jesus Christ, just God. And I think I could be wrong, but I think that was actually purposefully done to not alienate larger audiences. I think by keeping it more generic God, even though it is obviously Christian, but keeping it a generic God, I think you actually attract more of a demographic.
Yeah, and they caught a lot of heat just even before the show premiered by something called A Million Moms that was just like complaining about the whole thing.
Don't they complain about everything?
Those are the ones that launched the protest against Finding Dory because the trailer had a scene that looked like two moms and a baby.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we're dealing with like the most nuanced of people here.
Yeah, and of a quick piece of irony, would anyone like to guess what Tom Ellis's father, sister, and uncle all do for a living?
I'm going to assume work in the church.
Pastors, yes.
Well, that's pretty funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they're proud of their son. Son, brother, whatever.
Yeah, screw your mom, dad, and siblings. I'm going to play the devil on TV.
You know what? Tom Ellis is a really great actor. I brought this up before on the network messenger chats. Ellis has apparently been doing talks with Marvel for ages now. They really want to land him for a role in a movie. And the one that I keep hearing them come back to is Doctor Doom. What do you guys think about the guy who plays Lucifer playing Victor Von Doom?
That'd be interesting. The other one that I saw, and I've shared this, there's a YouTuber, I can't remember, but they actually put him down potentially as Mr. Sinister, and I think either of those would actually be really good.
My only concern with him playing Doctor Doom is that's a character that wears a mask a lot, and like I'm hoping we don't get the whole Judge Dredd issue where it's like, well, we've got this big name actor that apparently all the girls like and some of the guys. We got to show his face because we're paying for that face.
Now, I have a couple of flashbacks, sure, to show him before we put the mask on, but yeah, don't pull the Sylvester Stallone move.
Yeah, or even Doctor Doom in the first two Fantastic Four movies.
Oh God, that crap.
Yeah. No, also, Ellis is a really facially expressive actor, and I feel like that's taken away a pretty good tool for him.
It does, but he does have a really great ability, just come across as so dominating and powerful. Dr. Doom is a character who is able to just ensnare the world even though you can't see his face. And I think we could all agree, if you saw Tom Ellis doing the devil eyes behind the mask, you'd still shit your pants.
Definitely. Moving on to the resolution of this season and the wrap-up regarding the Goddess.
Well, they wrapped it up right quick. They just sent her off to another dimension, and then through was it the Lance of Longinus that they had, or the flames?
It was Azrael's blade.
Azrael's blade. By the way, when Azrael shows up, she never mentions hey, has anyone seen my sword?
I hate to admit, I actually skipped that episode.
You did?
It's okay.
That's a great episode.
I'll go back and watch it. No, but we also get the wrap of season 2 is that it looks like Lucifer is about to go ahead and tell Chloe everything when he gets knocked out, wakes up in the middle of the desert, and he's got his wings back.
Yep.
And he's not happy about it.
Yeah, if there was
exactly. And we have our second appearance as Lee Gardner, who becomes the punching bag for the first episode of every season moving forward.
Yeah,
maybe that's why season 6 is going to be the last one. They've run out of things to do to him.
Well, what else can they do with him? He's already in hell.
I'll take over. He's the waspinator of this show.
But yeah, I thought it was kind of good development for Lucifer that he ended up telling his mom, like, like we don't want war in heaven because people are just going to die. Your children are going to die. Maybe not all of them, but some of them will. And it's just, like you're getting too big for this universe. It's time for you to move forward and do your own thing, even though it means you'll never see us again. But you can kind of make your own universe on your own terms and have new kids to be with. And like it shows a bit of a step up in maturity for Lucifer. I mean, it's a small step up because we're dealing with Lucifer here, but it's it was a good moment for him as a character to kind of take on a mantle of responsibility for everything. And then we kind of have him start him moving into confessing to Chloe, and then we get the writers throw another wrench into the works there because of course they have to. So in season 3 it is now. Lucifer's been kidnapped. He's got his wings back. He's not sure what's going on, and we now have the new police chief at the precinct, who turns out is Cain, who has been, cursed with immortality after killing his brother Abel, just like in the Bible, and is trying to find a way of killing himself so he doesn't have to be bored with life anymore. And he's also kind of got a bit of a thing going on with Chloe to mess up with Lucifer's will they, won't they.
I really enjoyed Tom Welling as Cain. He's a great actor, and it was so fun seeing him in this. But, I'm going to be honest. I still have no clue what makes him mortal. They talk about all this stuff about how it's something about the connection of breaking Chloe's heart and whatever, and I have no idea what they were going for. I really don't.
Well, I'm not sure if it's by this point, but... no, it's just after this point, but Amenadiel realizes that it's a lot of the stuff that happens, it's not the will of God, it's self-actualization. Like, he loses his wings because, like, subconsciously, he knows that the things that he's done to try and get Lucifer back to hell are immoral, and he no longer considers himself to be worthy of being an angel, so he loses his powers. And we learn that Lucifer is much the same with sort of the issues he has with his powers going up and down. So I think in the context of Cain, is like the moment he loses his mark is when he's about, because he thinks that by, he knows from Lucifer that Chloe makes Lucifer mortal. He's like, oh, well, if she loves me, then I'll be mortal and then I can die. But when he's just about to seal the deal, he just says, no, I can't do this. Like he stops and sort of like for the first moment in his life, he does a selfless act. And I think that's what causes him to lose the mark. But then once he decides, like, oh, wait a minute, now that I'm mortal, I can actually enjoy life as living it for the first time, and yeah, sure, I'll hook up with Chloe. I like her, and then so he's back to selfish, and that puts the mark back on him. At least that's my read on those events.
Yeah, and I think, and Mark's chiming in here because of audio issues, and I think I'm in agreement with him. I think a lot of the problems that we run into in season 3, as good as Tom Welling is, and as kind of compelling a lot of the story is, the whole thing ran on for too long. I mean, I think this ended up being, the first season was like 10 episodes, the second season was 18, and this one went to 26.
Yeah.
And just the entire storyline was probably stretched out a little too far. I think the story was compelling, but if you had really kind of trimmed a lot of the back and forth and the fat out of it, I think it really would have been tight. That's like I said, there is a lot of stuff I enjoy in here. I think adding Kanan is a really interesting character. I think his history with both Lucifer and Amenadiel is interesting. I never watched Smallville, so I'm not really as familiar with Tom Welling as an actor, but I think he does a very good job of kind of playing that level of disconnection that you'd expect from that. And I mean, again, and maybe it's the way it showed up on Netflix because this was originally broadcast, but there's also 2 episodes that are kind of tacked on to the end of this, which are just kind of plain weird. The first one being Boo Normal, which is basically Ella learning that her best friend is death.
That was the episode I said that I missed.
Watch that one. I actually enjoyed the hell out of that. And I'll be perfectly honest, I was saying to Alicia for a while, it's like, we're going to find out Ella is deaf. because from what I understand of the original Sandman comic, Death there was a goth girl, and I think, Alexis, you referred to her as a pixie?
No, actually, you're right. From Neil Gaiman's, or from the illustrations for the original Sandman book, I could very much so see the actress who plays Ella playing that version of Death.
Well, that, and I mean, I think they did a bit of updating to say that, Nerd Girl with an endless supply of novelty T-shirts would be perfect to throw everyone off as Death. And then the other one is Once Upon a Time, where they do like an alternate version of the entire world, which to credit had Neil Gaiman doing the voice of God, but just was a very weird episode. That was a very weird way to end that entire season. But like I said, there's some really good stuff here. I will have to call out, which one is it? It is Off the Record. Is a fantastic episode that really kind of takes one character. It's a little self-contained, but it really goes into the theory of how hell works.
Yeah, I must commend the writers so far. They've made it 5.5 seasons without doing they film a documentary inside the precinct episode.
Also, Mr. and Mrs. Mazikeen Smith, if we want to talk about Maze as a bounty hunter, is a great episode.
I think one of my favorite things about this was actually the reveal of the death of Abel through Cain. That I grew up in the Episcopal Church. My parents were former Catholics. I think I've mentioned that before on the show. And we have always been told about how Cain killed his brother. And Abel has always been portrayed as this saint-like child who was so innocent and so pure. And Cain was a bully who was jealous of him. And this actually says, no, we were fighting. We both wanted to kill each other. Cain goes, I just got the rock first. I just grabbed the rock first. He's like, if Abel had done it, I would have been dead, and he would have been the one running around. I thought that was just such an interesting idea, because I had never thought of the story of Cain and Abel like that, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's not that long if you read it, like not even half a page.
Yeah,
I really wanted to like the whole like organized religion in total for like taking a few short stories and blowing them up as big as they have.
Mm-hmm.
Like seriously, you sit down and you actually read the Bible start to finish. Like, wait, that's it? Like, that's all the stuff that they taught us in Sunday school. It's like, man, like it's just like pages and pages of God yelling at the Israelites for worshiping gods other than Him. Seriously, that's like 90% of the Bible right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. I think some of the other good ones from this season, because on some level you probably get, well, the overall structure suffers. I think there's some really good single episodes, and I think one Mark just chimed in on here was Vegas with some Radish, and that's one where Lucifer has to go to investigate the disappearance of his fake wife, Candy, with Ella in Las Vegas, and I recall that being a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I was so happy when Candy was only there for one episode, and we learned that she's just an actress Lucifer teamed up with to sort of throw a wrench into everyone's plans to just sort of see what came out of it, so he could figure out what he perceived was going on.
I also love that it's revealed that Ella is kind of a gambling addict and she can count cards, and that's why she doesn't like going to Vegas. She doesn't like being tempted there.
Yeah, because she gets called security at every casino she goes to.
Yeah, when Lucifer starts to, she's like, okay, scoot over, and she just impulsively starts playing. she
But when
cannot.
you're good at something, there's few things more annoying than watching someone doing it terribly.
Agreed. But no, that is a real fun episode.
Oh yeah, there is one thing I want to bring up really quick, and then I think we can probably move on to kind of towards the end of season 3, since this is a very Chloe-centric episode, with talking a lot about what's been going on with Chloe and Cain and Pierce. And one thing that I gotta call the show on is that I found Chloe was often a little bit, and I don't know if it necessarily is here, but there were a couple places where I recall them not quite being kind of consistent with their writing of Chloe. I mean, we've kind of talked where she was the straight-laced detective, and then I recall there being episodes where she was asked to go undercover, and we find out that she's actually a very slick undercover officer, and then she goes back again to another undercover episode later, and she's completely out of place. Any thoughts on her somewhat being victim to the story?
A little bit. I mean, it would make sense that she'd be good going undercover. She is a former actress, after all. And even though she didn't, what did we say it was called? 80s hard body films. Even though she never.
I think about it for the timeline. It's American Pie.
True enough. But she still would have been a somewhat decent actress. And yeah, there's one episode where she has to go undercover, and she's essentially told, channel your inner Lucifer. And it's clear that she has never been more uncomfortable with anything in her life.
Yeah, it was a pretty good shot of like someone who's a good actor doing bad acting. I mean, it's not the best example of that I've ever seen. That would be like from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. If anyone's ever seen that, you can look it up on YouTube. But probably the best example of a great actor acting terribly.
Yeah.
But I find Mazikeen might be the character that I find is the most uneven through the show. And I don't know if that's just because she's a demon and is all over the place because she's a demon playing human, or it's just the writers didn't really know where to take that.
That's true. Again, she feels she needs a purpose in her life, but they keep going back and forth on what sways her.
Yeah, because like you get like the first half of the first season, and she's just like, "Yo, Lucifer, I'm fully devoted to you, no matter what happens." And then end of the season, it's you and Amenadiel both like used me, screw you both, and then it's like, "Oh, I'm going to be best friends with Chloe," and it's like, "Oh, now I hate Chloe and screw you guys," and it seems very uneven, and I never really feel like what her reason is for doing all of this stuff, for having these reactions, and like there's no it gets to the point where I lose sympathy for her because it just seems that she's just trying to sabotage everything. The moment that it gets to a point where she seems to have found a place to be. And I think we'll get a bit more on that towards the end.
Yeah, I was going to say, if we can jump ahead for a split second, her teaming up with Michael in the last few episodes because Michael has promised her a soul. It's like, okay, first of all, Maze, we know you're smarter than this. You know he's manipulating you. It's like blatantly obvious. But again, it's like, okay, so apparently, I mean, they've hinted before they've talked before about how demons don't have souls, and it's clearly something that bugs her a little bit. But now all of a sudden, she's demanding a soul, and it's like, Maze, you've been around for ages, and this is the first time this comes through, and now you want it enough that you're actually going to be gullible enough to let Michael, pull the wool over your eyes.
Yeah, because like first season, she was just, demons, we don't have souls, so we just live every moment to the fullest, and it didn't really seem like a big deal to her. Richard Ayoade, that was what I was thinking of in Dark Place. He does a brilliant performance of someone who cannot act to save his life, and it's go watch it now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in relation to Mazikeen, I think to me it made a little bit more sense because they really talk about they talk about the fact that Mazikeen's been around humans. She started to develop connections and feelings and things like that, and I think she's starting to realize that on some level it's almost her dealing with her own mortality on some level. Speaking of mortality, I mean, I think probably moving on to the towards the end of season 3, I think we definitely have quite a bit of that going on in the last 2 episodes.
It's the 4th season, so time to make good on that will they won't they romance.
Yeah, right. Alexis, we'll go to you on kind of the last arc of the death of Charlotte, and then in turn the showdown between Cain and Lucifer.
The death of Charlotte, I'm just going to say, was handled brilliantly. She makes the ultimate sacrifice to save Amenadiel, and he has gifted his wings so he can take her to heaven. That was beautifully done, beautifully written, and I love that they gave her the final closure for that. Even though Charlotte Richards was not a good person, you didn't want her to go back to hell. It was clear that she was trying, and she was genuinely scared. And I love that they closed out saying, yes, we're going to let her go to heaven. That was really well done. And I love Lucifer's taunt to Cain as he's dying. They established that it is your own guilt that traps you in hell. It is your own fears. It is your own depression about what you have done. And Cain, it seems like he's an inch away from not feeling guilty for what he's done and that he's going to get out of it. and Lucifer goads him into the guilt right before he passes on. That's just cold-blooded.
Yeah,
That was awesome. Dave?
Yeah, like the best line about hell is, he says, the best thing about hell is there are no locks. All the doors are open. Anyone can leave at any time if they think they're not guilty, and no one ever has. Yeah, my only issue with the death of Charlotte Richards is they had a Tricia Helfer and now they don't.
She's made a few cameo appearances here and there.
Yeah, but you could have her as a main character. Like, look, Tricia Helfer, she's really good, okay?
Yeah, and I think, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think, Alexis, you captured most of my feelings about those last couple episodes, both with the closeout and saying farewell to Charlotte Richards, and I think how poetically they dealt with that on screen. And then, they have the setup of Chloe and Lucifer walking into the ambush, her finding out that he has wings because he uses it to shield her. I mean, that's a great example of to talk about for the limited budget they had on this show. They definitely knew when to throw that money down, and that was definitely one of those scenes.
Typically, season finales,
I
when most shows, open up the bank.
Yeah, I also got to throw a shout out to that last fight between Lucifer and Kane, just because I love a karambit. So that was a great little fight, and I think, Alexis, again, you pointed out how well Lucifer kind of planted that last little idea of hell in Kane's head before he died, and obviously we have the reveal of
the devil face
of the devil face, and afterwards Chloe thinking that he's a creep. Moving on to season 4.
I gotta ask, do you guys think the devil face is too overplayed in later seasons?
I think they could have overplayed it more, but I mean, it's a cool effect, and dramatically it works great. But yeah, it's something that you definitely want to use very sparingly to sort of make it a big deal. Though I think we get the best use of the devil face later on in later season 4 with the baby.
Yeah, that was
5. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, season 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually somebody who probably leans a little bit towards I liked it more when Lucifer went more devil, more punishment, more super powered, for lack of a better word. I found that element compelling when he went to his own, however weird it may be, sense of justice. But I thought that I also will say that as you go along, the actual quality of that effect improves quite a bit. So
I'll agree with you that the scene of him using the devil face to humor the baby has got to be the fun. So,
Yeah.
But
I mean, let's face it. Like, the image of like pure darkness and hell making children laugh is completely 100% realistic.
Yeah, I love when he just sticks his tongue
As
and
someone who
goes,
has taught public schools.
But I think I prefer the devil face when it was seen in the first 2 seasons as a flash. In the very first episode, when he goes after the guy who's shooting at him and Chloe, you don't even really see the devil face that clearly. It's a flash and a reflection, and that's enough to traumatize the dude that he's attacking.
Yeah,
that was genuinely more effective for me.
Yeah, part of my only issue with the devil face is Netflix likes to put it on the little poster card in the menu, so it's kind of not that exciting when it shows up in the show. It's like, oh yeah, I saw that on the thumbnail.
Fair enough.
Alrighty then.
Yeah, Netflix not doing very good with your thumbnails lately.
Yeah, and we can talk about how mad I am about the way they decided to go and ruin the big gag of season 5 in their trailer. But anyway, moving on to season 4 and the girl who started it all, Eve, who we find out is Lucifer's ex-girlfriend and ex-lover, and is very much the reason that, and it's actually that, not an apple, where everyone got cast out. Dave, we'll start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on Eve and kind of her element of the story?
Yeah, well, apparently the first girl was also the first party girl. Yeah, I don't think this show is doing much to do the whole Eve is unfairly put upon by her place in history according to the Bible. But yeah, like it's kind of nice that again it's them throwing another wrench into the will they won't they thing, where now Chloe's run off to sort of deal with the reality that yes, Lucifer is literally the devil. But I would say, jumping into her a bit, that it seems strange that she's had 4 years-ish of being with this guy, and she apparently trusts Lucifer a lot. And she's probably had enough evidence to know that there's something supernatural about him that she wouldn't think to just talk to him about this as opposed to run off to the church. But we'll touch on that more later. But yeah, getting back to Eve, yeah, it seemed, yeah, he kind of hooks up back with his ex, and it turns out that she's somewhat of an enabler. She sort of takes all the sort of base impulses of Lucifer that he's sort of grown out of throughout the course of the show and sort of sets him back to that. So it's like, yeah, party, drugs, sex, rock and roll, punishment, torture people, great, burn the place down, sort of Lucifer. And yeah, it's a good way for them to put him back in that space and get a bit of conflict going for the season. And I do like that Eve herself is not a bad person. It's just she seems to just be an enabler. It's like she's good on her own, Lucifer's good on his own. You put the two together and trouble happens.
I'm going to disagree with you on the enabler thing, because the way I saw it, and this is entirely just...
To be fair, it does not take a lot to enable Lucifer, but yeah, please go on.
I feel that Eve is more a problem that she is too codependent. We established that Eve talks about how she was created for Adam to be the perfect woman after Lilith was banished from the garden for not being obedient. And the one time that she tried to do something she wanted, I do like the idea that it's like the forbidden fruit thing. It's like, no, that wasn't an apple. That was her having sex with Lucifer. That was literally the forbidden fruit. But she is someone who she feels the need to please those she's around. She is not an enabler so much as in she is so codependent because she is terrified of being cast out again. All she wants is for Lucifer to be happy, and she can tell he's happiest when he is being his old, debaucherous self. Even someone that you would see in a very unhealthy relationship, and I have seen in way too many unhealthy relationships, hell, I have been that in an unhealthy relationship before. I'll go ahead and admit it. I'm not proud of it. But she is someone who is not going to encourage her partner to grow, to be better, to do the right thing. She is somebody who is with their partner and they are just going to wallow in where they are and what they're doing forever.
They're all about the good old days.
Yeah, I think that
the days aren't that good anymore.
Yeah. Again, I don't think Eve is a bad person. I just think that the effect that she has, creates trouble.
Yeah, and again, she's not doing it on purpose. You're right. She's not a bad person. She was literally created to serve. Mm-hmm. She openly admits, she's like, I was made to be the perfect wife. And even though she says she didn't want to be the perfect wife for Adam, she wants to be the perfect wife for Lucifer. She does not have enough sense of who she is as a person. Her only true identity that she sees in herself is when she makes her partner happy. And that is very sad because there are so many people out there who have that problem. They do not have the self-confidence or the identity to stand up for themselves in a relationship and be an equal part of it. They are the support. It's very damaging.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And it kind of ties into where she ends up at the end of the season, where I think that's where she gets to. Is like, I need to start living just for myself and figure out what living for me and not for like a man or a relationship is.
Which I think actually ties in very well to a point that Mark just brought up. I mean, and tying into some of our conversations that we just had about Mazikeen and the fact that I think we find out that Mazikeen has feelings for Eve by the end of the season. Yeah.
I mean, again, I think Mazikeen tends to sabotage a lot of her relationships, but yeah, in the case of Eve, this is sort of the super painful, like when you like someone, but it goes right over their head. I think there's one bit where Mazikeen's trying to confess to Eve her feelings, and Eve thinks like, oh, that's how I should feel about Lucifer, completely missing what Mazikeen was trying to do.
Exactly.
That was kind of a funny, kind of almost throwback to a lot of the pieces that we've seen of Lucifer, where somebody says something to him and he completely misses the point.
Yeah, again, it's the emotional immaturity of the Celestials.
Yep.
Whereas we've spent a few millennia making movies and music and art and all sorts of stuff trying to understand all this stuff.
And all it is just a really bad episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, apparently.
Yeah, but yeah, like I don't know about you guys, but I've been in a situation where there's someone I like, but they don't figure it out or they don't reciprocate it, and it sucks to be there. Now, I have not committed any acts of attempted homicide in relation to that, unlike Mazikeen, but I know like that is not a healthy headspace to be in. But in real life, you learn to work through it with family, friends, and just emotional growth. Whereas if you're like a centuries-old demon whose main job it is to torture people, yeah, like that's not going to manifest itself in a healthy way.
Yeah, and I think even going back to our earlier conversation around Mazikeen and what comes up with her in season 5 regarding her soul, I think if I remember right, there was a line near the end of season 4 where she thought not having a soul was one of the reasons she couldn't connect to people. So I think that kind of ties that in again. Going into kind of the main story of season 4, let's talk a little bit about Father Kinley, played by the ever awesome Graham McTavish, and kind of that further concern about there being prophecies and ending of worlds and such things as that. Alexis, we'll go to you first.
I think my favorite moment with Kinley, honestly, is his death. Eve tricks him. She kills him because of, and I love that she finds one of Maze's hidden swords because, of course, Maze wouldn't remove all of her weapons, even in a house with a new baby. That was great. And Eve tells Father Kinley, "You can go down to hell." And Kinley looks at her plain as day and goes, "Why do you think I'm going to hell?" And the look Eve gives him, just that look of, "Are you kidding me?" Oh, that was so great. She's like, "You seriously don't think you're going to hell? Really?" It was such a good scene.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of a...
guy.
Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Maybe he's a big John 3:16 guy. Okay.
I mean, I think this is maybe talking about the overall arc and structure. This is almost one where, talking about the death of Father Kinley, I almost feel like this episode was only 10 episodes. I feel this one needed another 3 to work in a little bit about where they went with the demons starting to come up and take bodies and kind of function on their own agenda without Lucifer around to keep them in line.
I must say, I do quite like the demons, other than when they started rebelling. They're just so simple-minded. It's quite endearing. Well, especially at the start of season 5, where they have that one demon that Lucifer sends up into the corpse at the crime scene to talk to the detective.
Yeah,
just one of his simple reactions, like, "Is that Mazikeen?" And then he dies.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, this body's not meant to last."
Yeah, it's like you know what? I kind of like these guys.
Yeah, and that would have been interesting to see that go on for a couple of more episodes, just to kind of further, get into a little bit around the demons and everything like that. And it felt like 3 was a little too long, and 4 was just maybe an episode or two too short.
Yeah, they probably could have split the episodes between the two more evenly, and both seasons would have been better for it.
Going back to demons, I would have liked to have seen a little more personality, maybe a little more time with some of them. In the Lucifer comic book, there's a scene where Lucifer goes back down to hell, and he passes these 2 demons who they're eviscerating this poor soul. And they're like, "Is that Lucifer?" "No, that couldn't be Lucifer. He wouldn't be." And they just suddenly turn and they're like, "Oh my God, that is Lucifer." And they look at the soul they're torturing and go, and they're like, "Yeah, just stay there. We'll be right back." And they just run off after Lucifer.
Quick. Look busy. The box is coming through.
And I just would have loved to have seen more of that. There's a scene, I think, it's season 5, where Lucifer's talking to a soul who's being tortured in a circus style, because, of course, there's nothing scarier than clowns. And you got the 2 clown demons in the back. They're like, "So should we just get back to work or what?" I would have loved to see just more, for lack of better terms, workplace comedy style out of the demons. I think little sprinkles of that here and there throughout the series would have been so much fun.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, let's go into moving towards the kind of the finale of season 4. We have the the attempt to kidnap Charlie to maybe recruit him as the new king of hell, and then Lucifer coming to the realization that the demons can't be left to their own devices, so they will. He's got to go back down there to manage everything.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of Lucifer accepting his responsibility as the devil, and Chloe accepting Lucifer as he is as the devil. With again them establishing that it's the job, it's not who he is. And yeah, as for the father, what's his name? Again, it's sort of as from what I've read of the Bible, you'd think the Catholic Church would kind of know that the devil's not really that big of a deal. And I just find prophecies to be the laziest tool in writing in general.
I do like that the other priests don't humor Father Kinley. When he starts pulling this horrible shit and murdering people, they're just like, no, we're washing our hands of this dude. We're not condoning this crap.
Yeah, and when they find that he set up this guy to get killed so that Lucifer could reveal himself, and he's like, well, you have no evidence, like no one's going to testify, and then one of the priests that he was trying to show was like, I'll testify. Note to the Catholic Church, when it comes to priests and altar boys, you should try this. It would do you a lot of good.
Oh, you beat me to it, Dave.
Sorry. Yeah.
I think the other interesting kind of arc on the end of season 4 was the something we haven't talked about at all was Linda becoming pregnant with Amenadiel's baby, and the fact that he was throwing around the idea of potentially taking Charlie up to go raise him in the Silver City, as in actually transport him there. And going that I found to be an interesting conflict, and it was something where I wasn't sure which way they were going to go with it, because Amenadiel strikes me as a character who will do something that ill-advised. I mean, that's just, again, we've talked about it, the emotional immaturity and misunderstanding of the Celestial characters just gets in the way, and I thought that was a really good tension to play out till the end of the season.
Yeah, now I haven't had kids yet, but I know, like Andrew, you do, and Mark, of course. But like I assume that moment where you get this sort of moment where you realize that, man, there are a lot of things in this world that can kill this kid, and just that sort of desire that you want to sort of shield them and keep them safe from everything. And I assume that sort of emotion in Amenadiel, which he's experiencing for the first time, is like, in heaven everything's safe. He can be amongst other celestial beings, and he won't know pain and suffering or sickness and all of that. But then there's also, you're taking the kid away from his mother, which is also a horrible thing. And I think it was used to good effect for like a great fake out where they find, Charlie's missing, and we assume that Amenadiel's taken him, but no, it turns out it was the demons. So, that's
Amenadiel's an interesting character because he claims to have been enlightened from his time among humans, much like Lucifer. We have this great scene with him talking to Remiel, I think is the demon's name.
Oh, his sister.
Yeah, and he talks, and Remiel is insulting the humans, and Amenadiel is talking about how much greater they are if we give them the chance. But I don't think he is totally over his prejudice of humans. He thinks that he is, especially with his love of Linda and Charlie. But the truth is, he is still an angel. He's still a celestial. And I think he still views himself as a little higher than that. I don't think he is, at peace as much as he likes to think he is.
I think there's a bit of like the Dunning-Kruger effect there, where he's had a bit of, he's learned a bit about humans, and he thinks he's learned a lot about humans, but he hasn't learned yet, so it's just this process of him. He's still going on that journey. It's like when I was 20, I thought I knew everything. I'm an adult now. Me, almost 36 years old, looking back at 20-year-old me, I didn't know anything. And I'm sure 40-year-old me is going to look at 36-year-old me and go like, man, you still have a lot to learn there, Dave.
Yeah, I just turned 36, and if I ever think I know everything, some of you guys are welcome to drive up to Kansas City and bop me in the head.
Yeah, I will forever be looking at my 10 years younger self and going like, man, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, that's life.
Alrighty then, moving on to the first half of season 5, and we have the introduction of Michael, the Archangel, who is also played by Tom Ellis.
With an American accent, so you know he's evil. The exact opposite of everything on American television.
What? Okay, first question. Let's just get this out of the way. What do you guys think of Tom Ellis's American accent?
I enjoyed it. I thought the entire Michael performance, from mannerism, delivery, writing, posture, everything was spot on, and the ability for him to change that on a dime was remarkable.
Yeah. Now, actually, I'm not sure. Like, is the Lucifer voice his normal voice, or is he actually putting on an
British.
accent? Okay, so he's British. Yeah. Okay, Welsh. Yeah. You got to be careful with which one of those you use. You know, get into a fight with all the English and all the Welsh. But yeah, I mean, look, it's pretty much like all actors in English-speaking countries outside of the United States have to develop the skill of speaking with an American accent. I think as Canadians, we can kind of get away with it here and there.
Most of them just go with a very strong Southern twang accent because that, from what I've been told, that's the easiest American accent to fake.
Well, I think there's a lot of vowels in common and things like that, so it kind of plays over into itself. I will say probably one of the issues I ran into with I had two issues with Michael. One was, I think, when they were having him play up being Lucifer, they rushed that a little bit, and I think they dropped too many hints that it wasn't him just to build that tension. And I think, what was the other one? I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But anyway, that was definitely something. And the other thing was that the Netflix spoiled the entire bloody thing in the promos for season 5.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So you would have liked
you watch.
You would have liked there had been a few more episodes before they reveal that Lucifer's still back in hell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, though I do appreciate that they didn't keep the Michael deception up through most of the season. He was only there for like 2-3 episodes, and then Chloe figured it out pretty easily and called him on it, which was nice.
And then shoots him every time he says something more.
Yeah.
I will say one aspect of Michael in terms of not only the performance but in terms of the writing, that the fact that they keyed in on kind of, we'll call them the base power set of both of these characters, where Lucifer is what do you desire and Michael is what do you fear, and how much that kind of informs the character to say that the character who's evil wants to know what you want in life. The character that's good, with quotes on, wants to know what you're afraid of in life. And I think that's some interesting commentary on religion that I don't think we're going to get into right now, but I took a shine to that.
Yeah, I do like that there are themes attached to each angel. Like Amendiel has time powers that come and go. Lucifer's all about desire, and Michael's about fear. And then Uriel, he's the master of
probability.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember what are those incredibly intricate machines.
He's a character.
Rube Goldberg machines. He's the master of Rube Goldberg machines. There we go.
He's able to see patterns.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he didn't see the pattern of Lucifer stabbing him with Azrael's blade.
Well, let's face it. Any time you write a character who's able to see who's basically pulling the Taskmaster style of superpowers, you're going to have a moment where they fuck up. Otherwise, how are you going to kill them?
Yeah. I guess it was too simple a pattern.
All right, then. Moving towards a little bit. So obviously, I think the main kind of thrust of the argument in this season is between Michael and Lucifer, and actually, I'm trying to remember right off the top of my head what Michael's kind of end goal was. I think at the end of it was him trying to destroy Lucifer's life by exposing him, and hence kind of showing him to Dan, and the whole thing basically ends with a big brouhaha, which is which is broken up by the voice of God himself, Dennis Haysbert, also the man who apparently God also sells Allstate.
Okay, first question. Did either of you guys watch 24 when it was on?
No.
No, I watched The Unit, though, which starred Dennis Haysbert, so I think he's an awesome actor.
On 24, Dennis Haysbert played President Palmer. D.B. Woodside played his younger brother.
Huh.
So to see Dennis Haysbert come in playing his dad, I couldn't stop laughing.
Well, I mean, I remember D.B. Woodside from the last season of Buffy, and from he was on at least one season of Suits, if I recall.
Yeah, see, 24 is how I knew him. But yeah,
yeah.
oh my, yeah. Who else thinks Dennis Haysbert is a great choice to play God?
If it wasn't for the fact they already brought in Neil Gaiman to do the one episode where he narrates, I was Dennis Haysbert's got a great God voice. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, that was kind of my only issue, is they kind of already established Neil Gaiman apparently as being God, but, well, I guess, God can look however he wants to look. He's God.
Well, in all fairness, Neil Gaiman, God bless him, he is God's gift to comic books, is not an actor, and if they want a character or an actor who's going to continue to play God in the remainder of this season, yeah, no offense, Gaiman, but we probably need someone who's a little bit more talented, not to mention, I think has more of an imposing feel.
Yeah, he's not a commanding presence, back. No, I think you could do like a good version of Neil Gaiman as God, because again, it's the real God is, as shown in the show, is not what people would image God as being. That's kind of a neat idea, and it's been explored, by I think like Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett, like their sort of views of depictions of God as being just someone who is totally clueless about the universe but running it anyway.
And how do we? Mark's just chimed in here on the chat side of things. How do we all feel in terms of what does it mean for the show bringing God in? Because he's always been kind of a source of dramatic tension since everyone's always been arguing about what his intent is. And do we feel that maybe this is? I mean, we know there's going to be one half season of 5 and then a season of 6. How do we feel that's taking the momentum of the show? And are they starting to grasp at straws a little bit?
I feel that they should have waited to reveal God until the 6th season. I think bringing him in, even though we are close to the end of the show, is showing your cards just a little too soon. And as much as I love Dennis Haysbert, I think he would be a terrific actor for God, I'm going to just say it that if... I genuinely hope when season 5 picks back up, he's there for like 5 minutes and he's gone. I do not want God to be a reoccurring character. This is a problem we've had with Supernatural. They brought in God, a.k.a. Chuck, and it's genuine. A lot of people are not a fan of having him be a reoccurring character on the show. So we don't want, we were joking about how God is never around. You don't know what he's thinking. And frankly, as annoying as it is, I think we prefer that out of our fictional characterizations of the one holy deity.
Well, yeah, because of course the problem is if you have God actually showing up as a character in anything, people would ask him the big questions, and the author probably does not have the answer to those questions, so their version of God as written also doesn't. So, that sort of creates those sorts of issues. Like, I think with 1.5 seasons to go, God was kind of the last sort of element of the Celestials that they sort of had up their sleeve. And maybe it's a little bit too soon right now, having him stopping the fight before they spend any more money on the effects. But I think, my personal theory as to what's going to happen is, I think this is the end game of Michael's plan. Because we've heard that he's been setting himself up as a big shot in heaven. Everyone loves him. He's sort of the power sitting on the right hand of the throne, as it were. And we see him working up Lucifer and Amenadiel into this frenzy and getting them fighting, like the sort of thing that would draw God down to earth. And what's more, he's promised Mazikeen a soul in payment for her joining his side. Well, I'm pretty sure that the only being with the ability to give a demon a soul would be God. So my personal theory is Michael's basically going to try and usurp or kill God now that he's there, and that'll sort of be like the big problem forward is, now we got Michael with the powers of God running the universe, and that's bad. And I don't know if God's just going to die and then come back at the end, or he'll be sort of mortalized and part of the show moving forward. But that's sort of my feeling of where they're going with this. Whether or not that'll take 1.5 seasons to resolve, I'm not sure. That would seem more like a last half season sort of thing, but...
And the other question I have on this one, and this is kind of my thoughts, and then I think we'll move to wrap up, but the way I kind of think about it as well is that, and this just came to mind, is that we set up Michael as being kind of the king of lies. Where Lucifer never lies, Michael always does. So I think maybe one of the questions they resolved here, aside from the initial reaction, is that are we 100% sure that this is actually God, or is this Michael playing another con?
Sure. And with Michael's character is he's sort of set up with he sort of has this permanent inferiority complex with Lucifer. Like it seems like he feels like he's never good enough. He's never given the credit he deserves, no matter how awesome he believes he is. So I think that kind of ties in with my theory as to what his ultimate goal is now I'm the guy at the top. Everyone has to worship me and see me for how awesome I am. Forget about Lucifer.
Definitely.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off there, Alexis.
No, it's okay. I was also just going to comment that I love that they made Michael the opposite of Lucifer in so many ways, even in the way he spends money. Lucifer doesn't mind forking over money and giving away his wealth. Michael threw a fit when Chloe knocked a coffee out of his hand that cost $7.
I never noticed that. That's a great
Nor did I.
pick.
Yeah, good eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
I was like, of course Michael's cheap as hell.
All right, then. I think we've kind of wrapped up most of the conversation around the main part of it. Let's talk a little bit, just for a second, this will be our wrap-up final thoughts for anything regarding the back half of Season 5 and moving on to Season 6. Alexis Hejna, what do you desire?
Oh, you can't say it like Tom Ellis?
No, I can't. No, I cannot do a British accent.
You beat me too, despite that being like 99% of my bloodline.
Well, the fact that both of your parents are English, why have you never developed a good impersonation of your father?
I don't know. It's my shame.
Well, what do I desire? It's been talked about and kicked around, but I didn't think about this until somebody else brought it up, but there's no question. I want Constantine to make an appearance in the 6th season. They've already jumped off the cliff and confirmed that this is the Lucifer from DC. They had him interact with the characters on Crisis on Infinite Earths. I would love a Constantine tie-in on season 6. I think, blanking. Name of the actor who plays Constantine.
Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan. I was going to say, first one to say Keanu Reeves. I'm driving up to Canada and kicking both your asses. And I love Keanu Reeves. No, I think Matt Ryan and Tom Ellis would work so well together. I already can tell they would have great chemistry, and I would love to have them just bite the bullet and bring him in on that. I have really enjoyed this series, and I've enjoyed drooling over Tom Ellis, admittedly.
But do you enjoy his singing?
What?
Do you enjoy his singing?
Yes, actually, I do. This version of Lucifer is actually what I've always imagined the devil would be like. I never liked the whole idea that the devil is just gross, ugly, horrible. He's a charmer. He's trickster. I used to have this theory I joke about, said God and the devil look exactly alike, like they're the same person. But whereas God is just wearing casual rundown clothes, comfortable sneakers, the devil is wearing those $5,000 Armani suits. His hair is perfectly coiffed. He's drinking the most expensive liquor he can find. Tom Ellis is exactly how I would always have pictured Lucifer, and I think the show has done a great job on that. I love how they expand the mythos with staying both within the realms of the Christian theology and not making it too restricted by what we know of that religion. So I have greatly enjoyed it, and I can't wait for them to come back out with the remainder of Season 5 whenever the hell that happens.
Alrighty then. Thank you very much, Alexis. Dave, what do you desire?
Yeah, well, I've kind of already explained where I think the show is going with it. Though it's kind of funny, Alexis. The description of God and the Devil was very similar to, I don't know if you've ever heard of the show God, the Devil, and Bob.
I own it on DVD. I love that show.
Yeah. I've only ever seen one episode, but it's like, man, that is like exactly it. The devil wearing like $1,000 suits and God wearing like tennis loafers and a polo shirt, like from the thrift store. But overall, like on the show, it's kind of funny. We haven't really talked that much about the actual procedural aspects of the show, where it's sort of every episode is solving a murder. Spoiler, guys, it's whatever extra was given a speaking role.
It's the third person they talk to. I'm pretty sure if we were to Gantt chart this thing, or pie chart this thing, that's what it would be.
Yeah, and like as a procedural, it's fine. Like there's some good moments with it. But yeah, overall, like it's not heavy watching by any stretch. Sort of seeing all this Neil Gaiman-esque celestial religious inspired stuff shoved into a police procedural is kind of a bit weird.
I have to share this because Mark
sorry.
just.
I just almost forgot. Can we all agree that making Pete the Whisper Killer in season 5 was total bullshit?
I can't.
Right. See, and that was, I think Mark's kind of chiming in here on kind of similar thoughts, where it's like, yeah, the procedural is the most unbelievable part of the show. He says it ain't The Wire. So for those of you with your bingo cards at home, mark that down, and if you're playing the drinking game, take a drink.
But yeah, overall, I'd say like the procedural stuff is okay. I wouldn't say it's revolutionary over any other show in the genre. I found the will they, won't they again to be quite tiresome. Somehow there was always some sort of contrived excuse for why the two characters can't just get together. It's usually Lucifer throwing a tantrum about some perceived slight from God. But yeah, like overall, it's an enjoyable show. I'll watch the last 1.5 seasons. I think it is probably a good number of seasons to end out on.
Yep. Okay, for myself, what do I desire for seasons 5 and 6? I'm definitely with Alexis on John Constantine showing up. We didn't get a chance to talk about her a lot. I definitely want Death to make a reappearance with Ella, because I think those are two really interesting characters. And yeah, I could definitely do with a little more celestial end of the world stuff and a little less of the crime procedural, because it's going to be the third person they talk to every time, guaranteed. But otherwise, enjoy the hell out of the show. There are a lot of great episodes. There are some great stories in there, so I'm looking forward to where they go with it. All right, moving on to plugs. Alexis, please go ahead.
All right, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. I'm going to be taking a little time off to add some more items to the shop this week. We just got a ton of game pieces in the mail. I have been spending this last week turning them into bracelets, earrings, and anything else that I could think of. So we're going to be adding these items to the shop here pretty soon as I get a nice clear day. It's been a little overcast, and I strictly use natural lighting for all of my photographs. Of course, it's a little rough because this is usually the season where we'd be getting ready for our big fall rush. Normally this time of year, I am on the road going between Cincinnati, Grand Rapids, and Atlanta. Of course, with COVID-19, all the conventions have been canceled and or postponed, so it's a bit different. So we're trying to just take our time now to get everything up on the sites. We want to have everything ready to go before our holiday rush starts, which I keep getting reminders from Etsy. It's like, damn it, I want to enjoy Halloween. No, Christmas is right around the corner. Urgh. So, of course, keep a lookout on our Facebook, our Instagram, and under duress, our Twitter. That will have all of our updates on what's being uploaded to the stores, any public appearances that we will be making, any travels that will be coming up in the future. And as always, you can find everything we sell on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
Mr. Wright.
Okay. I think this is the last thing I know of on the schedule for this year, but who knows? The schedule is always in a state of flux. But I have cleared enough stuff off my to-do list that I think we'll be able to do another Star Trek retrospective episode in the not-too-distant future. So I just got to round up everyone for that, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Excellent. Thank you both very much for being on tonight. For myself, I train at Havoc Jeet Kune Do and Esteemed Martial Arts here in Calgary. You can find us find them on Facebook and all your major social media. Also at I believe it's the second one here, Calgary JKD as well, or esteemedhavoc.com. That's under Sifu J. Cooper and Sensei Sarah Jade. Talking about the Radichin Broadcasting Network for the next little while. Tomorrow night, Metal Hammer Doom will be Jorn, Heavy Rock Radio Volume 1 with Jesse Starcher. The 15th will be TV Party Tonight, The Babadook with Robert Winfrey, who would have hated this show because there are far too many concerts. On the 19th will be Source Material, Betty Page Halloween Special with Chris Sheehan. 10:20. The 20th will be boxing heavyweight boxing history with Chapter 11. 11 Forgotten Sons with Pat Mullen, and the 21st will be Metal Hammer Doom again with Jorn Heavy Rock Radio 2, Executing the Classics, again with Jesse Starcher. You can find the Rattle and Broadcasting Network on Facebook, then on all the major platforms under the W2M network. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part, and shout out to Mark, who had some technical issues earlier this evening. In the meantime, I wish you all be well, be safe, and behave.
Hail Satan.